March 14, 2012, my son Thomas lost his battle with the disease of addiction. I now belong to a club that no parent should ever belong to. Do you know the signs? Do you know the trends that children are doing in today's world? Do you know the signs and symptoms? Do you know the signs and symptoms of drug abuse? I want to empower and educate Long Islanders by bringing a force of professionals and how to prevent the disease of addiction. Long Island in Crisis. Good evening and welcome to Long Island in Crisis. This show is about the unbelievable continuing growing epidemic, and as everyone refers to it as a heroin and opiate epidemic, it really is substance use disorder. We are allowing our adolescents to start using substances at a much too early age. 12 is unacceptable. So we're just trying to educate parents, educate loved ones about dealing with a loved one's substance use disorder and the insanity that ensues on the family. I lost my son 4 years ago, so I know what family members go through, and the person struggling with the disease never really has quite the idea of what they're doing to their own family lives also. So that's what this show is dedicated to, and my special guests tonight are Lisa Gans of LICAT and Janice Talento of Drug Free Long Island, and we're going to talk about a couple of things. So on August 31st, we have Overdose Awareness Day, and on September 25th, we have our second annual Long Island United for Recovery Walk at Belmont Lake State Park. So I know you're in the field, Lisa, but how many, let's just talk numbers for a minute. LICAT is a not-for-profit organization that connects people to treatment.
Correct.
How many people are you currently servicing monthly?
Monthly, we average about 1,000 people. Phone calls, face-to-face, emails, since that's really growing. People are more comfortable sometimes sending emails.
Yeah.
But in terms of just this total number, 1,000 services a month.
That's one organization, and not everyone goes through you.
Correct.
Right.
Correct.
And you are in Nassau and Suffolk, and we'll put those numbers, we'll go over the phone calls for that. But you are completely not-for-profit, so you don't charge a fee for your services, and you do try to connect people to the best of your ability within their coverage to
Right. So we don't take
services.
insurance because we know it's often a barrier to care.
It is always a barrier to care.
Right. So we do, in connecting people to treatment, we have to work with insurance. But for us, you can walk in our door at any time that we're open and be seen by someone who really knows their stuff about substance use, be able to help families, individuals, friends of anybody. All are welcome. There's no wrong door with us.
And LICAT also provides anger management classes.
Emotional regulation, a really big piece.
Yes, it is a big piece because often there's underlying issues with substance use disorder.
Right.
So there's other things going on.
Right.
So I know I can speak to my family. We lost all 3 grandparents in 3 years, and my ex-husband and I got divorced. A lot of trauma for my children in a short period of time. So I get that. That was the underlying trauma. But there could be underlying mental illness, could be a lot of things going on. We don't know what we don't know until you start to peel away the layers.
Right, and we know that substance use is considered an unhealthy coping skill for dealing with life, which is traditionally difficult for all people. So emotional regulation, a really, really big piece that, yes, we do through anger management. We also do it individually. We do it in schools. We bring it in from the prevention side of things, teaching young people, kindergarten through 12th grade, how to manage emotions in a more effective way.
And I'm just going to say it out loud because I can. Parents who have lost children especially, and parents who have children that struggle, hate the word prevention.
Yeah.
Because as a parent, you feel like you didn't do everything you could do. Words really don't bother me because I just look beyond that. And I did the best job that I could at the moment in time that I was.
Right.
If I knew then what I know now after having such an education, I don't know what the outcome still would be.
Right.
That's the way life goes.
Right. And you're right. That's a big
thing.
piece.
But this is not a moral failing by the child or the parent or a family member or a spouse, anyone that's involved. It is not a moral failing.
Never.
That switch goes on and it doesn't get shut off.
Right. And prevention doesn't mean this equals that.
Right.
It's not black and
white.
And
it doesn't mean that it's going to be 100% preventable.
Right.
But if we talk about prevention, I would like parents to think of it this way. You bring your kids to the dentist every year for a cleaning, for fluoride, you're preventing cavities.
Right.
You get them immunizations. You get them well checkup visits when they're little.
Right.
Think of it along those
Same thing
lines.
with healthy eating.
Yes. So that's prevention.
Yep.
And Janice, I know you and I, and I handle a lot of calls a month too, connecting people.
Absolutely.
And I'm not I'm not an organization
yet.
But what are you seeing? So you're
definitely seeing a rise in people looking for help because we did advertise the fact of the new laws that got passed. We do give out LICAD's number because they do have a 24/7 number, which is huge because we all know there's that small window that when somebody wants help, they need to be able to reach somebody then.
Yes.
And giving somebody that gets an answering machine between 5 p.m. and 8 a.m., that's unacceptable.
Right.
So we are a big, huge LICAD fan ourselves. As far as numbers go, we don't see numbers because we get calls, we get emails, I don't know where they went for help because I've given it, but
you're the
number people.
Correct.
You're the number people.
You're the connector.
You know, once in a while I get the email, thank you so much, he's in treatment, I'm okay for the next 30 days.
Yes.
Well, now let's get you into help because that's what parents need too. Once you got your child or your sibling safe, now get yourself the treatment and help you need to become whole and safe yourself again.
Absolutely. And parents and families so often
don't
say that, oh, well, I have 30 days, I can breathe. No, use the 30 days.
Right.
So I know at LICAD we have family services there also. Al-Anon,
education,
Alateen, but there's meetings everywhere and anywhere. And there's grief support at LICAD also, unfortunately.
Yeah.
So we are not anywhere close to even getting this under control. And until we start making the changes in kindergarten to 5th grade, we're not going to change the tide.
Full spectrum.
It's a full spectrum. Schools so often wait till high school because that's when the kids are ready. The horse has left the barn by the time they start to bring that information. Because we all know, well, you are way too young to have had a teenager by now, Lisa, and you are way too young anyway. But when you're 14 years old, you own the world anay, so everybody else
I remember it.
Yeah, I remember it too. Your parents are complete idiots for quite a while until you are supposedly the responsible one.
I know the school surveys that they do, it's like 11 now. Kids are tampering in different drugs and alcohol. So it used to be where it was 14, then it went to 13, 12. 11-year-olds, 5th graders.
5th graders.
Right.
But I
so why are we
speak
waiting till middle school?
all over the state at all different treatment facilities, and that is the question that I ask always. If you could go back in time and speak to yourself, what age would you be? Overwhelmingly, the answer is 12. There are quite a few that say 10.
Right.
And I've talked to people also suffering that have said they knew when they were little.
Right.
They used to look at their parents drinking or whatever, and they knew that they wanted that.
Right.
Which is, and they'll say it themselves, it doesn't really matter. I was predisposed at any age I was going to pick that up. That's their feeling on it now, being removed from their substance, which is interesting.
Well, I think there is something human about wanting to feel better.
Yes.
Right? And wanting to experience something that's outside of the everyday. That's interesting if you think about why kids spin around in circles to get dizzy and just experience what that's like. And
I still do that.
You did it right before you shot.
Yes.
So there's still that human desire to experience something else. So there's
like a roller coaster.
Yeah,
a thrill.
Any kind of thrill, right?
Yeah.
Right. So
adrenaline rush.
You know, just in keeping with what we're looking for, ways to really understand this, because a lot of questions are like, well, why? Why are they doing this? And how come? And I don't get it.
Right.
You know, I think we can all kind of relate to that human desire for that kind of experience. I think we can all understand that.
I think that's definitely a reason. And kids today.
The
pressure.
Oh, huge.
Right.
Pressure and not really, they don't ever get a chance to be a kid anymore.
Oh, I know.
They have a schedule.
Yeah.
Even when they're playing sports, all the sports are so competitive that you don't just get to go out and like play stickball in the street.
Right.
You got to be in an organized sport. You have to have an organized play date. You know, your parent, if you don't have enough friends, but they're going to start making play dates for you.
Yes.
Right.
And parents don't understand either. I mean, it's great to get the kids educated K through 5. It's the parents that need to know to start the communication with the kids at that age too.
And coping skills. You know, as a parent, and I know you can say this, the worst thing in the world is to watch your kid have to work through something or have gotten hurt and you can't fix that. And to be the one that stands by, but you can be the one that holds their hand and say, you know, I got you. I'm here for you. Let's talk about it. Let's go have ice cream. That would be my vote.
I ran, it was actually Brittany from LICAD. We ran a Narcan training, and this one mom came with her sister, whose child, and she was like, well, I'm not involved really because it's not my kids, but it is your nephew.
Right.
And who says tomorrow won't be your child? And how would you handle it? Learn how to save a life now, because if it is your child or your nephew, how would you handle the situation? And do you talk to your nephew? Because you know what, to me, all my friends' kids are my kids. And all my kids' friends are my kids. I'll watch out for everyone in my community. So if you're over and having a problem, sit down, let's talk.
And that's what I would love to see the world go back to.
Absolutely.
Is when I rode, if I was somewhere that I wasn't supposed to be, by the time I rode my bike home,
your mother knew.
My mother was standing at the front door.
Yep.
And I was like, oh boy. But she knew because everyone else cared about you. They weren't tattling on you.
Right.
They cared about you.
Right.
Hey, you know, I don't know what's going on. Is she allowed that far now?
Right. Right.
Because everybody was friendly.
Right.
We need to care about everybody else's because it really, truly does take a village. The school is not primarily responsible for the education of drug and alcohol for your kid or risky behavior. Churches or community center, not totally responsible. But everybody working together can be totally responsible.
Right.
Absolutely.
And it also makes kids, you're the therapist, feel very safe. Kids like rules.
Structure.
They love structure.
They need it.
They want to fight you on structure, but that's their growing pains.
Right.
But they also love when they get tucked in at night, and they're tucked in, and they're safe, and they're sound, and they know nothing's going to hurt me.
We all want that security.
We all want that security.
We want a certain level of consistency and understanding of what is expected of us, just like at work. If I need to know what my boss wants of me so that I can do a good job. If I don't, then I'm living in chaos and stressed out. So, you know, and that's, if you ask them, like, all I want to know is what you want from me. Like, what do you want from me?
Right.
And if you can answer that question concretely, that's awesome. That's great.
And it's giving boundaries to your kids. And some parents don't give any boundaries because they want to be their friend.
Yeah.
Well, now, even if you had a really relaxed boundary and they cross it, now they're in trouble. If you have tight boundaries, my children would test the boundaries. They're testing a safe boundary. They're not getting into a risky boundary yet because I have the boundaries tight.
Right.
And they know why crossing a boundary, they're in trouble. So they're never going to cross, hopefully, let me knock wood, never cross that really bad boundary, you know?
Right.
And it's harder to implement them after the fact than it is
once the horse has left the barn, hard to rein everybody back in.
Right.
That's very true.
It's especially true, though, you know, when we talk about the new crisis, not that it's new, quote unquote, but...
And, you know, let's talk about, I'm going to say it again, the substance is unimportant.
Yeah, right.
So parents can feel, or anyone, and I am not judging or criticizing in any way, shape, or form, but to say, well, at least my child's not shooting heroin is not the answer to anybody, because 5 years from now, we may be back to crack cocaine. we may be back. Who the heck knows what we'll be on?
Happen already, but you know, in this era, which is the digital age.
Yes.
When we talk about communication and information, which are two of the biggest things we talk about with parents and kids each other and kids and older brothers and sisters and friends. Gone are the days of I'll tell you when you're older, or you know, you don't need to know what that is, or you know, where'd you hear that? Stop saying that word or whatever. All those things that used to be like you can kind of get away with. Google exists.
Yeah.
And Google's where they find information, and it's not always the best. So those days are gone. It needs to really be consistent and accurate and open from day one for however little they are in their language. But
in their language, but you know, it's also, you know, dealing with a substance use disorder in a grandparent or someone in your family when your child is 5, and you say, don't say, well, we're just not going. We can't visit aunt, uncle, grandma, grandpa because they made an unhealthy choice today. A 5-year-old is going to be, you talk to them in their language, and as they get older, why do you keep saying that? Right. What is their unhealthy choice? Grandma and grandpa, whoever that person is, uses alcohol, uses this to excess, and it's not going to be a healthy place for us to go. So when you
overuse, is better than using heroin. And I'm like, do you know how many deaths are related to alcohol use too?
Still the number 1 killer, right, Lisa? Yeah.
Sure. Yeah. When you add in all the other things that happen around
yes.
it. Yeah.
Well, drunk driving.
Right. Homicide, suicides.
Yeah.
Accidental.
We've had alcohol poisoning on Long Island, though. We had 2 kids in Babylon, right on New Year's Eve a few years ago, but only one died because he passed out and froze to death. So it happens more often than not. We don't hear about all those cases. So I know there's a lot of work to be done, and parents are overworked, trying to maintain a lifestyle on Long Island, on any place in the country, is difficult in this day and age because much is expected for a lot more hours because of competition, of wanting to keep your job with the economy the way it is. So the family dinner hour has gone wayside. And, you know, again, challenging parents, and this is just a challenge. How do you come home from work? Do you come home and say, I need a glass of wine, I had a bad day. I need a beer, I had a bad day. Because when your 12-year-old has a bad day in school, this is a learned behavior. They're learning it from their heroes. So how do you show up? How do you teach kids? It's easy to say be drug and alcohol free. Show them how it is to have fun, drug and alcohol free at some family parties.
My daughter's taught me how to do like meditation.
Yes.
So when you have a bad day, I bought one of these, the oil, essential oil diffusers.
Yep.
I turned this diffuser on. It actually has music built into it, like a soft oriental music. And I just sit in my den, no lights on. My son comes in and he's like, he goes upstairs. He knows I just need 15 minutes.
Right.
Because I'm not a big drinker anyway, but you never want to show them that. But
no.
When did it come, and you're young too, but when did it come that parents can't tell their children no? Oh, well, we live in a town, everybody's doing this, or everybody's going there.
I said that when I was little. I really can't say on air what my father said back to me for that answer, you know, and I'm the youngest of 5. He didn't care what anybody else was doing because you're not doing it. However, that being said, if push came to shove and I said, oh, really, everyone's doing that, let me make a few phone calls. Oh, see, I am not the only mother in the universe that is doing this to you because 3 of your friends can't go also.
Yeah, but what about the 4 or 5 friends that parents just go, okay, you know, and they're setting the example because they don't want to tell their child no. I work all week. It's easier to let them go hang out at the school.
It's always easier to say yes. That's always the easy answer.
Right. So,
but you're going to reap what you sow eventually.
Absolutely.
You
know, it's not good in this day and age to do that.
Yeah, and I think there are different things at play there in terms of why that is, and there are plenty of parents who are very uncomfortable with that and just have a hard time because they also need to have their own social life and they need to have friends in the community. So it does put parents in a really rough spot. You know, I think in keeping with this digital era, everything we do is documented. Everything is pictures. Everything is image. Everything is about not who I am, but who I want you to think I am. And that isn't just kids.
That's a great statement.
That is parents also, and it is older adult. It's everyone.
It's everyone.
Right.
That's the world.
I need you to see the illusion that you think my life is.
Right.
Because when other people read Facebook, all social media, aren't they having a great life? Mm-hmm. Now it's the furthest thing from the truth.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Don't worry about anybody else's life. Just worry about your own.
Right.
But it's very hard to do when your whole world is documented, and there's that social pressure that some feel to also be showing that kind of, not a false representation, but a representation, not an actuality of what their life is like in any given moment. So I think that's a big thing too, is it's all image. It's all image and competition and all these things that are, you know, lining up, like you were saying, even in schools, that, you know, we're playing sports, but not for fun. We're playing it for our college application.
And it's exactly right. You know, and it's funny. It's always in high school. You need to be academically awesome, athletically awesome. All of these things that get put on kids, and this is supposed to be the best time of your life. Right. So damn it, why aren't you enjoying yourself? Yeah.
Oh, by the way, all those things meet at the same time every day.
Yeah.
So, good luck.
Yeah, college application wants you to be in a club, but if you play sports, the club meets the same time you have practice, you know, and you can't miss, even if it's a practice. I understand a game, but you can't miss part of practice to go to a club.
Right. No, you can't.
So,
so we're just setting people up for
failure.
For failure and
for stress.
Unnecessary stress.
And anxiety.
Yeah.
And it's okay for your kid just to say, hey, you know what, I think also sports give the illusion that your kid is safe.
Right.
Your kid's team will probably be the first place that they get their first drink.
Right. Yep.
So, you know, we have to get rid of that illusion too, that if they're that busy, they're not going to have time to get into trouble.
Yep.
It's okay if your kid lays on the couch on a Saturday morning and watches cartoons. It really is
there's
okay.
Some good cartoons Saturday.
Yeah.
There are no more cartoons?
No, there's good ones.
Oh, okay.
Oh, are there?
Well, plus Netflix and all that, so
yes.
pretty much do whatever.
So yeah, exactly.
And there is it's a tricky balance. It's definitely not easy. It's definitely not straightforward. But,
no.
And, you know, we also don't want to scare the heck out of parents who, you know, well, where is my kid safe? And what can I do? And what, you know, I think we also want to get so obsessive that sometimes parents get caught in the, well, what do I do? Just tell me what to do. And I can't do that. You know,
right.
I can make suggestions and we can figure it out and pros and cons. At the end of the day, if you can look back at whatever you did that day and say, I did everything I could, and I'm okay with my choices, and I'm okay with the things I said, awesome.
It's also okay, you know, I mean, parents are allowed to say, I made a mistake.
Right. Yes. What a great lesson to teach.
What a great
people.
lesson. Mm-hmm. I used to always say to my kids, if you want an answer right now, you're really going to be unhappy with the answer that I give you.
Right.
So you can either stop now and give me time to think, or I'll give you the answer right now. All right, take your time. The answer may still not have been what they wanted to hear, but at least I had a moment to think.
Right.
And that's okay too.
Right. To say, you know, I don't know right
now. I don't know right now.
Right.
I don't know what all that means. Mm-hmm. So let me take a few minutes and let me play it out in my own head. Because your gut sometimes.
Oh, absolutely.
And it's not even your gut. You just are like, that doesn't sound right. No, you know, without fully understanding. But all of those things, it's okay to make mistakes. You're going to make mistakes.
Right.
Who said you weren't going to make mistakes? They didn't write that in any book.
Mm-hmm.
And the book that you got is after your kid was born anyway, so you were screwed right from the get-go. But it's a learning opportunity for everybody.
Yeah.
But you're right. At the end of the day, because even talking to parents struggling through what they're struggling through, I'm never going to tell you what to do, how to do it. I can share with you my experience, but you need to be able to look yourself in the mirror and say, I'm good with all the decisions that I make. And if one of those suggestions makes you that uncomfortable, by all means, that's not, you have to live inside yourself with your family.
Well, every situation is different.
Yes.
Every child is different and reacts differently to different pressures or stress or even suggestions.
Yes.
I know if I have a suggestion to make to my son, I call my oldest daughter. You know what, why don't you suggest to Joseph that he maybe doesn't hang out with this friend, and he respects her more, not that he respects her more, but he listens to her suggestions better because it's a sibling.
He hears her.
And we could say it the same exact way, but he hears her. So that's what I think parents need to understand, to find who the child
go-to person is.
Yeah. And it might not even be anybody in your immediate family. Mine, for me, when I was growing up, was my aunt.
Yep.
If my aunt talked to me,
could be a teacher.
I heard it better.
Could be the snack lady.
Yeah.
It really doesn't matter who they connect with, as long as they connect with someone.
Find that one person, yes.
Find that one person. My kids always had, and very interestingly enough, the three of them liked the same teacher in high school. So if I needed interference in high school, I would call him. He was a young guy, and he'd say, I got this, no worries. I'll find out what's going on, and I'll get back to you. Nothing secretive, nothing anything, but simply, hey, you know what, come in here, I want to talk to you. And they would talk to him. They were that comfortable.
Good.
So, find different avenues.
Right.
You shouldn't be their friend.
No.
They're not telling you the truth anyway. So let's be real about that.
We also don't want to do for them so much that they never learn how to solve their own problems. I love the teacher-parent interaction. I think it's awesome. It's like more integrative than ever with these
email or
stuff. But teachers, we do trainings for teachers also, because young people spend most of their time in school. So we want to train teachers, signs and symptoms, how to engage a young person around this stuff. Because that's not their specialty. So we try and give them as many tools as we can. But parents, they have a constant contact with parents, which I think is a little different than it used to be. And sometimes it's great, and sometimes it's not so great. But for the most part, we also want to see kids solve their own problems. It's you talk to your teacher. I'm not going to talk to them for you. But if you have this issue or struggle, or you're angry about a grade, or you're, again, emotional regulation, right?
Yes.
You're having these experiences you don't like. Let me help you solve it, but I'm going to help you solve it for yourself. And you know what? If it doesn't work out, then I'll jump in, sure. But teaching them that self-sufficiency, so they have something to feel good about. I solved my problem, and I got my grade either raised, or I got extra credit, or whatever it was.
Whatever you needed to do. But it also teaches them you're not going to like everyone, and everyone's not going to like you.
Right.
And you're going to have, kind of that struggle with personalities, and deal with it, because this is life.
Right.
This is life on a very small, safe thing for the child, and solve it. Find a different way to engage. I'm not removing you from the teacher's class.
Right.
And I'm not, if you didn't do a great job, own it. No, I'm not going to go up and teachers are afraid of that. I mean, I've spoken to enough teachers. Teachers get, it used to be, if the teacher said, I'm going to call home, good. Or because now, as soon as the kid says, I'm going to tell my parent, the teacher is always going to be at fault.
Right. And that's what I was kind of alluding to what also has changed in this world that we're living in parenting styles. And because we have such a close connection with teachers, sometimes we just do and do and do for, rather than teach to do.
Yes. Very important.
But by you guys going into the schools from K through, because I know you teach the Healthy Decisions, you do the Too Good for Drug program.
Right.
You're teaching them coping skills from the young age.
They need coping skills.
And I think parents need to be taught that same, like when your kid comes home with homework, yes, they're going to need help, but don't do it for them.
Right.
Or like we ran a post-it contest, and you could tell which parents did the post-it for their kindergartner and which parents let them do it.
Oh, my goodness.
Help them.
Sure.
But there is a way to help a child, but to teach the child to stand on their own 2 feet and be proud of the work you could do.
Right.
We took one out of the competition knowing that the parent did it, because that's not what it was all about.
Right.
It's
insane.
It is.
But you remember the science fairs. You would go to the science fair, and there would be my kid in kindergarten with celery with different colored, and then there would be, a robot built by a 5-year-old, and they'd say, yeah, I already passed. I used to tell I already passed kindergarten. I'm not going to do that for you. I graduated that
And just winning isn't the point.
Right? Winning is not the point.
Putting your best effort.
And it's one of the things that has come up in a lot. I do a lot of research in gaming addiction, which is kind of a growing
thing. My gosh.
Addiction.
And the desensitizing of human beings with those games. You just kill
games, media alone, just what is shown to us that you can get access to is traumatizing at times. Yeah. So, and they've researched a lot of that with gaming, and we could talk about that another time. But, there are a lot of benefits to some of these games and how people learn. And one of them, they always talk about how you praise people, right? So if you're a kid and you're a teacher or a parent, and you say to a kid, "Wow, you made this poster, like you are a great artist," is a lot different than, "Wow, you must have put a lot of effort into that." And the learning that comes from that slight difference is, when I put effort, I'm able to accomplish really great things, versus these identities that, if challenged, like let's say I make a poster in another month or a year or 5 years and it's terrible, and someone goes, "Wow, you're a terrible artist," like my identity gets shattered versus my sense of what I can do and effort I can put in. And so little things like that, we're really learning every year. Every year is more research. But
words
but
are powerful.
How we praise kids is also really important.
Right. Well, there's no surprise. The harder you study, the better grades you get.
Right. So rather than say, "Wow, you're really smart," like, "Wow, you must have studied really hard."
You know what? You put a lot of effort into this course, and I'm proud of you.
Right.
Right.
So
absolutely.
You need to write that book down so to give out to parents.
But that's a good, but and I've often told this story. My son was a wrestler, and he would come off the mat. I didn't care if he won or lost. Right. Of course, it was always great for the ride home if he won. Right. But he would look at me, all the other parents would say, "Oh, that was awesome, Andrew." And he would look at me and goes, "I know." And I would tell the parents, it doesn't matter at the end of the day. He got lucky today.
Right.
So our conversation is always, what would you have changed? If he lost, what would you have changed during those 9 minutes? And he wouldn't answer me that day. Sometimes, though, when we have these conversations, he'd say, "I've replayed that whole match. I wouldn't change a thing." He was better than you for 9 minutes on Friday, January 10th.
Right.
That's it.
Right.
He was better than you that day, period.
Right.
Or if you can come back to me and say, I dropped my shoulder, I dropped my hip, I did whatever, then you learn something, because you learn in losing.
Right.
Yeah.
So the match was unimportant. What did you get out of it? And what do you bring forward?
Right.
Because if you never lose, you've never learned anything either. Or the desire to get back up.
Right.
When we talk about identity and what that means today, those lessons are really important.
Yes.
We tie up our identities in these very fragile social media platforms.
Yes.
That just can be shattered in seconds because it's all based on characteristics rather than efforts and intentions and how we behave. It's all outcome based. Like, that's a great picture. You look great. You're hot. You're smart. And we got to get rid of those things, because sometimes I'm not smart. Sometimes I say stupid things. If I lost my sense of self every time I made a mistake because I said something stupid, I would.
Oh my gosh!
I would not be sitting here.
I wouldn't be hearing
my
that.
My kids remind me every time that we were sitting at the dinner table and we're talking about. I said, "Well, the South Pole is hot," and they looked at me and they go, "Mom, think about what you just said." They didn't call me stupid. They were like, "Mom, just think about what you just said."
Right. Right. Or they laugh at you. Yeah. And then that's the ability to laugh at yourself, too. Right. Like, did I just say that in my outside voice?
I did. I said the same thing. I'm like, oh, did that come out of my mouth?
Janice said a really important thing before, too, though, because I think, we are really hard on parents.
Yes, we are. And this is not any criticism or judgment or anything else. We're just really trying to help each other.
Right. Make suggestions and think about these things differently. But, the truth is, parents were never taught either how to cope with emotions.
That's what I mean. You never got a book.
Regardless of.
Did you get a book, Janice?
No.
I didn't get a book.
Regardless of how to parent, with this, there's plenty of self-help books that still aren't really the whole thing. They never will be, ever.
Right.
But none of us learned. None of us went to school, and every day we learn a new skill for managing our life and how we feel and letting it go, or processing it, or solving problems, or how to communicate. We learned other important things, like math and history, and those things are great. But there's really never been a dedicated time ever to mental health learning, whether you're healthy or not. It doesn't matter. Like, we don't have those skills. Like, we need to learn them. And parents often don't have them either, so we want to teach you also, parents, how to do this stuff.
I think, you know, we need to just relax at the high school level a little bit. Not as far as curriculum goes, and, you know, we can, Common Core we're not going to get into. But it's okay if your kid's an 85 student. It's okay if your kid's a well-rounded student. It's okay if your kid doesn't play every sport and is the star of everything. That's all okay. Because I think the goal that every parent, every educator wants should be that I have a well-rounded young adult ready to face the world in the best capacity that they could. That's all.
That's it. And the most important thing for parents too, if you have multiple kids. I have 3 kids. Don't judge each kid against each other. My middle daughter could get hundreds without ever picking up a book, but she also did put great effort in. My older daughter was a 90 student. My son could study for hours, and the best he would do is an 80. But you know what, Joseph? You did as best you could. You put your best foot forward, and that's all I can ask. Because he was like, oh, but such and such teacher said that, he was expecting a Janine. Well, you tell such and such teacher that you're a Joseph. And Joseph is just as good as Janine.
Absolutely. Joseph is different than Janine. And why are you comparing
them?
Right.
Because I was compared to my brothers my whole life. So
I'm the youngest of 5. So
I'm the youngest of 3.
Yeah. So I was screwed from the get-go. But it doesn't matter. You know, and as a parent, and I've done this, and I used to say it to my kids, if the best grade you could get is 65, I'd be celebrating 65.
Right.
But when I know that you can get 90 and I'm asking you between 80 and 85, I'm not asking you for your best. I'm asking you for a great effort.
Right.
Because
that's the key part.
Because you don't want them beating themselves up, and they are supposed to enjoy themselves a little bit.
Right.
Just a little bit.
Yeah,
you know?
Absolutely.
That's what life's about.
Yeah.
If they learn to balance school and social life, maybe the pressures would be off if we take pressures off. The pressures would be off of them. They'd be more well-rounded. They'd know how to handle the Friday night, come out and party. Well, no, I don't need to party all night. I'll come out for an hour.
Right.
You know, if we're not putting so much pressure on them during the week, you know, a little bit more relaxed.
That they need the reason to escape.
Right.
Because I think that's a big key part that we're really leading into. They have a lot of reasons why they need to escape reality.
Right.
They're in a lot of pain. They're in anxiety. And parents don't have to.
Right.
Because I know that my parents, you know, you may think they're not under pressure, but for them, having spoken to a lot of high schoolers, they're under tremendous pressure for themselves.
Yep.
They have a big schedule, and that's where escaping from reality wants to come back into. And you never want to end up in the shoes that I wear every day. And I think that's the biggest lesson that we can learn is communication, coping skills, life skills, and putting boundaries.
Right. And if your child chooses a different path than what you think that child's path should be, listen to their choice. You're going to go to Maryland State. No, I don't want to go there. My son just asked us to take the next year off of college. My first reaction was like, no, you need school. And we took a step back and we're like, all right, if you want to take a year off, you need to get a full-time job. Life has choices. You're not going to just sit and deliver pizza, 3 days a week. You're not going to go to school. And he did. He went and got a full-time job. The smile back on his face because he hated school. So maybe the year off will make him go back. Maybe it won't.
Maybe he'll find a different vocation.
Right. But you have to listen to really what they want. Was it my husband's first choice? Absolutely not. My husband was, like, for months, he's not taking her from school. He's not. He's going to go back in September. He doesn't want to.
Right.
And you just, is it an easy swallow? No, because my husband has a master's. He has a CFP. You want your kids to be able to get the education, but who knows? It might take them 3 years to go back.
But if Joseph graduates at 25 instead of 22,
but learns things along the way, and
It's not. How many people go back to school anyway? Right. I started out in marketing. Right. I said, I'm not going to do this anymore. Right. And now I'm a social worker.
Right.
So it happens.
It happens.
It's part of everyone has their own process. And
right.
There is no right way. There is no perfect way to find yourself.
Right.
And and overwhelming, do you agree with that statement that kids are just turning to drugs and alcohol because of pressure at a much younger age now? I think this is unheard of.
You ask people, why do you like drugs? What do they do for you? I don't know. What do they do? They feel good.
Right.
They feel good. Okay. We know that, right?
Right.
People wouldn't do it if it didn't feel good. What doesn't feel good about being sober, about having no drugs in your system? And anybody watching this right now can list off an unending list of things that don't feel good throughout the day. And our emotions are constantly changing. And 3 of our 4 primary emotions don't feel good.
Yeah.
Like fear and anger and sadness, which are very useful and very necessary. They don't feel good.
No.
If I have a test, I'm not going to be excited. Woohoo, a test. I love it. I can't wait. I'm going to be afraid. I'm going to be anxious. And I could either choose to get through that fear or mask that fear.
Correct.
And at the end of the day, when we talk about kids who have more anxiety than ever before, more depression than ever before, they're looking for ways to feel better. Yeah. And our culture is very much instant gratification.
Right. Yes.
Feel better now.
Absolutely.
Nobody wants to go to therapy once a week for a couple weeks, even if it's short term.
Right.
Well, take a pill. The doctor says it makes it go away, and it does.
Yes.
Right? But the reason why, the cause, is never
still
addressed.
there. Right. The cause is never addressed.
So there is no way to treat things like that with medication. You can medicate them, and obviously, and I'm not saying for people with, diagnosable conditions that require it. Beyond that, yes, very helpful for medications. But we're talking about young people or older people who say, I'm going to this party, and I'm really nervous, right, about being accepted or whatever.
I'm nervous about talking to boys and or talking to girls.
Right. Yeah.
I'm nervous about showing up.
What I look
Do
like.
I look okay?
Right.
Mm-hmm.
I don't look like the other kids.
Am I going to say something stupid? I find if I have 2-3 shots, it makes me feel the fear. The fear goes away. That's not a healthy thing, but it works in the short term.
Correct.
Therefore, it encourages continued use. However, what happens is that eventually that young person or older person knows that the minute they get invited somewhere where there's no alcohol, they can't go.
Right.
I don't know how to socialize or make friends if I don't have this thing.
This crutch.
That masks it for me. Now, you multiply that every time I have a test, I take a Xanax, or every time, I'm sitting with myself, with my own thoughts, which is like number 1 for everybody, the reason for insomnia. I can't get to bed, I can't calm down, I can't let it go. Opiates, what do? Right. They mask pain, emotional and physical, but emotional pain.
Yeah. Well, it's always...
And young people don't want to feel anything.
Any discomfort.
We're not even talking about I want to feel happy. It's like I just don't want to feel anything because the fluctuations and the intensity of the world as it is just so much.
So sad.
Right.
It's so sad, when you think about all the anxiety. I know when Thomas died, I could have drank, I could have taken Xanax, Valium, I could have been given a host of things. At the end of 6 hours, 6 days, 6 years, I still have to sit through the loss of my son.
Right.
So I chose just to sit through. There are days, every day I wake up and it's a good day. And there are days, it comes in waves. And I have learned to be uncomfortable because the fastest way through that is being uncomfortable for a few minutes.
Right. Discomfort. Tolerating the discomfort.
Tolerating the discomfort.
So huge.
And it's okay for me, people have said, well, don't stay home on his birthday and cry and look at pictures. Yeah, I'm going to stay home in my pajamas and look at pictures and cry. That's okay.
Right.
It may make you uncomfortable, but it doesn't make me uncomfortable.
Right.
So why is that hurting you?
It gets you through that day.
It gets
and then
me through whatever it is.
Function the other days.
Correct.
Right.
But there's nothing wrong with feeling sadness and crying and working through it.
Absolutely.
Whenever you need to do that, for whatever the reason. Some days you really can't explain why you have those feelings.
Yeah.
You just feel like having those feelings.
That's human
correct
biology and life. Everything changes, everything fluctuates. That's also what makes it interesting and enjoyable.
But by crying and or screaming and or whatever it is that you do, I think you expel that from your system.
Right.
Comes out of your cells and it's gone.
Right.
Then you can say, well, that sucked.
Right.
Now,
if you mask it, you never deal with it, it's going to be with you forever to haunt you.
Yes.
You got to deal
just layer on top of it.
You got to deal with the root of the problem to be able to move forward and become healthy again.
Absolutely.
And this is the kind of learning we were talking about earlier that we want to model for our kids and
teach
kids, which is that if you have a problem, how do you solve it?
Right.
Not through me. How do you solve
it?
With me and my help and my support. And again, age appropriate, but how do you, because that's self-esteem, that's I've been here before, I can do it again. That's learning about.
That's learning, right. That's equipping your kid with the best tools in their toolbox and the communication.
Right.
And so now let's talk about the walk. Why do we have to do this walk? Unfortunately, because we've lost way too many people on Long Island, number one. We are going to celebrate all the people that have chosen the road of recovery, which is so important to do because it doesn't all end in death.
Right.
But one is too many to end in death at this point. And to stop. We need to stop the new people taking this road.
Right. And we have to stop the stigmatism. We have to
Shame
let everyone
stigma.
out there know that if someone is hurting and turns to drugs, that it's a disease. And
it's not a moral failing.
Right. It's a disease just like cancer or any other disease that's out there. And by doing this walk and getting it publicized out there and there were people that came to last year's walk that had no kids in recovery and no kids in their family dealing with it, but came to support it because, again, one woman came that had breast cancer and she said, when we do the breast cancer walks, I have such support around me. I wanted to come and support this.
Wow.
That's a public health approach.
That's a public health approach.
Right. So I asked her this year, I already reached out to her because she had come up to my table. I reached out to her saying, we're doing it again. And she's going to try to get more of them down. I said, you could wear your breast cancer shirt. I don't care what you wear.
Absolutely.
You don't have to wear our shirt. Come as your own team.
Come as your own team. Breast cancer supporters support.
Yes, recovery.
Recovery.
Right, absolutely. So
what a beautiful thing that they did.
Yeah.
But, and just to say that, if Thomas had had cancer, I would have had spaghetti dinners. I would have had dinners delivered to my house. I would have had fundraisers. I would have had neighbors saying, everything okay? What can I do?
Right.
Instead of, oh, well, that's because she's a single mom. That's because this. That's because that.
Right.
Oh, he's a horrible kid. No, he's not. He's still the same kid that you knew that you loved when he was growing up.
Right.
But now he's sick.
Right.
And you think that it's a moral failing. And having written for Newsday several times, and I learned very early on in this process, don't read the comments.
Right.
But when you do read the comments, and it says, well, he deserved. No one deserves to die.
No.
No one deserves to die.
What an awful thing to say.
What an awful thing to say. But, you have to just, that's when I say, what an incredible, ignorant
person.
Right.
Absolutely.
What an incredible, ignorant person that is. To even, how that comes out of a human mouth.
Right.
Is beyond my level.
Right.
So we can't say, oh, just let them die. They chose this road. No, they didn't choose this road. Not even a little bit.
Right.
Not even a little bit.
And people say, well, it's because she's single mom, or that's because they didn't have money and they had to scratch. It doesn't discriminate. You could be rich, wealthy, white, black, live in any community. It's going to find its way to your door if the opportunity presents itself. Right. And by presenting itself, if a kid is in pressure or depressed or whatever, mental health, I know, is a huge issue right now. We have someone in our club, Kiwanis Club. His son was bipolar and ended up committing suicide. He did a big fundraiser and gave it to the Kiwanis Club for the drug initiative.
It's another epidemic.
But the mental health, with the suicide, but the mental health and the drugs too.
But it all goes to mental health or mental well-being.
Yes.
So we're talking about wellness.
Right.
We're talking about mental wellness, physical wellness, everything else.
Right.
Substance use is a mental health issue.
Yes.
But that it was never, like, people don't see it that way.
That's part of why this walk happens too, is that we're really trying to unite First, it started last year bringing Suffolk and Nassau together, although we also invited all the other places.
Boroughs. We did, but we walked between county lines to break it because it is two governments.
Yes.
It is. But we need to work together. I mean, we're not isolated, Suffolk and Nassau. No. We're very
because you can drive 10 miles and get someplace. And
my son could walk 1 mile.
Yeah.
And be in Suffolk County.
And score whatever it is you need to score. So we all need to be on the same
Just like
page.
any healthcare crisis, we need to work together, governments, agencies, communities. So that's really how it started. And, we also, though, like you said, want to celebrate those in recovery because as much as we hear about the awful tragedies that are associated with this disease, the good news about it is that there is treatment and there is help and there is recovery.
Yes.
And people in recovery can lead awesome, incredible, healthy, admirable lives. And that also
and I
needs
really
to feed
do believe that if you can overcome substance use disorder, you can overcome anything in life because you've already overcome probably the biggest,
the
hardest thing to do.
Right.
And it is a lifelong disease, just like diabetes, just like heart disease. You need to work on yourself every single day.
Right.
Jim Cusick from Veritas Villa wrote a book, Trouble is the Gift.
Nice.
I give that to a lot of kids struggling because trouble is the gift. If you allow it to be the gift and you can overcome adversity, especially at a young age, there's nothing that life can't hold from you.
Right. This year walk, we're going to do something a little different too. We're actually going to do a countdown. Lyra's going to take the lead on the stage and do a countdown number of years in recovery. Everybody's going to be sitting, and as your year, everybody's going to stand that's in recovery, and as they go, 5 years, 10 years.
If they're comfortable.
If they're comfortable. They don't have to. And that's
if they're comfortable.
They don't have to, but if they are,
and
they're going to do the countdown,
leads
which
to some of the shame and stigma.
Right.
And I'm not pointing, but AA was always that you were anonymous.
Yeah.
And the anonymity hurts the disease.
Right.
Hurts how people perceive the disease.
We were just invited to an AA picnic. My old partner who started Drug Free Long Island with me, her son is a recovered alcoholic, and he invited me to the picnic, and I said, is that okay if I come? He's like, you're my family.
Right.
It's for us and our families, anybody we feel comfortable who will keep the anonymity, all of us. And we played softball, we had a great day, and they're actually going to bring the walk to the center so that everybody knows about it. They might just come walk and not participate in the recovery announcement, but at least they know there's people there too. But there's also other people there that are in recovery.
But they can be a beacon of light to someone else in early recovery.
Right.
And I think that's what needs to be seen. Right. Because they are embraced when they go to a meeting.
Right.
Any 12-step fellowship will embrace them.
Right.
But by saying, hey, you know what, it's okay.
Well, we had one girl last year's walk, I think she had 4 days or 5 days.
Yeah. I think there were kids with even like
less?
4 hours.
4 hours, yeah.
That decided that moment.
Right. To go to the walk and come and
that's the whole point of this thing.
Absolutely.
And that's the whole point of this.
It's multifaceted, but we want to bring attention to the issues. We want to bring attention to the higher ups who make those big decisions about policies and access to care, and we want to keep that on the table. We want to bring people together who are angry and frustrated and who want to do something and want to be involved, because it's always the personal stories that make change.
Right? Yes.
And we also want to celebrate what we have accomplished and all the laws that have changed and the leaders who partnered with us and led that change. And we want to celebrate the people who have found their way through this disease and are survivors, so that other people who are in the throes of this addiction or this disease have hope, because that's what it's all about.
Well, continue to give the hope out. Continue to give the access to treatment too. So if that person comes with the 4
knowing
hours,
you're
they
not
know
alone.
that there's someone here that can help me.
Right. Knowing you're not alone. That, wow, all these people. Last year, I think we had 1,200 people. That was our first. So I can't wait to see. September 25th, Belmont Lake State Park in Babylon at 4:30. There'll be no fee to get in. There'll be food. There'll be entertainment. There'll be T-shirts. There'll be bags and vendors and information available to everyone, and support. I think the biggest thing that you'll find there is support. And we can all use a friend through all these horrific times that people struggle through.
Yep.
Lisa, please give us Like Heads 2 numbers.
Sure. In Westbury, our phone number is 516-747-2606. And we are the Suffolk County hotline.
Yes, you are the Suffolk County hotline.
Which is 631-979-1700.
24 hours.
24-hour access. Anybody can call that number. So it doesn't matter Suffolk, Nassau, but we have partnered officially with Suffolk County to be the hotline for residents in Suffolk County.
And on a closing note, I heard Steve Ballone talk about the biggest deficit that he has, and that's what I thought of, was the 800 line.
We do have a number for the walk also.
Go ahead, Janice.
516-203-7486.
And where can they register, Janice?
Register at info@liwalk@gmail.com.
Info liwalk@gmail.com
if they would want to just participate in the walk. If they'd like to be a vendor or sponsor, it's vendorregwalk@gmail.com.
Okay.
And 516-203-7486 if you didn't understand either one of the emails.
Or you can call the Like Head number.
Yes.
Ask for
or you can call and ask for Lisa, or you can hit Thomas's Hope Facebook page.
We'll get you the
Not
information.
a problem.
There's an online registration we're blasting out all over the place. Facebook event.
Just really hit social media.
We want you there.
Everybody.
Thank you, ladies, so much.
Thank you.
Look forward to seeing you guys next week, and remember September 25th. August 31st also is Overdose Awareness Day, so have a moment of silence for all those that did not win their battle against substance use disorder. Good night.